Hi, this is Barbara from Second Wind, and we're happy to welcome you on our video recording. Today, we're going to discuss very interesting topic. It's partial investment in EB-5. And Greg Bryant, who is Director of Business Development in Asia of one of the largest and strongest regional centers in US, will help me to explain what does partial investment mean.
Great. Thank you, Varar, for the invitation today. It's a pleasure to be here with you all and to discuss topics that are top of mind for EB-5 investors. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. So even before the increase of amount from 500 to 900 and to 800, which happens within the last few years, the partial investment was discussed here and there, but now we hear that regional centers started to offer it more and more. So we decided to actually record this video to explain what exactly partial investment is. So Greg, how do you do it in your project with your team?
That's a great question. So let's back up a little bit and talk about the need for partial investment. Obviously, with the increase of the investment amount from 500,000 to a short period of time at 900 and then now back to 800,000, really it has changed the market, and there are many investors who would have been ready to invest at the $500,000 amount who now find it a little bit more challenging to come up with the $800,000. However, they are committed to the EB-5 process, and therefore they want to show that they are able to complete the EB-5 investment process. However, they may not be able to do that in one lump sum. So I'd like to talk about a couple different ideas here, or a couple different topics, concepts that come up surrounding this issue of partial investment. So there is one type of investment strategy, which basically means that the investor will invest in multiple tranches or will invest multiple amounts, eventually coming to the sum of 800,000 plus the necessary administrative fees for any particular project. And then at the time where all of the funds are in escrow, then the I-526E, which is the EB-5 petition, can be sent into USCS. So that is technically not partial investment, but that is sometimes it happens over, say, 4 to 5 months, because there are certain areas that certain regions that may be a little bit more difficult to make money transfers from.
Okay.
However,
I was going to ask, like, why would you do so?
However, there are also situations where an investor may have certain aspects of their net worth that are not available for liquidation today. For example, they may have a property that's worth $500,000, and they may have investments in stocks that are worth $300,000 or $400,000. But those investments in stocks, they don't want to or cannot liquidate at the moment, or vice versa. Maybe the property will not be liquidated for another 5 months. So in that case, what some regional centers have been doing, including ours, we are willing to work with investors on a case-by-case basis for partial investment. What this basically means is that the source of funds, and this is something that the investor needs to work with their individual immigration attorney, needs to be explained for the entire amount of $800,000, plus the timing for the investment needs to be written out, specified, and then a partial investment would be followed then by the filing of the I-526E. So basically what that allows for is the investor to get an earlier priority date, which is the date where USCIS starts processing the I-526, even though they are still in the process, in the active process of making the investment of their EB-5 funds. Now, again, this could be, in certain cases, risky. So that's why I say we take it on a case-by-case basis, but it is something that we are actively doing for certain of our investors who are committed to the EB-5 process, however, may not be able to liquidate all of their assets in a method that's timely enough to make a one lump sum payment. However, it is important to note that since we're seeing faster processing times, especially for example, rural projects, we're seeing faster processing times. An investor should be aware that they would need to make the total investment or to make up the remainder of that investment in as quick as a fashion as possible, because again, they don't want this process of partial investment to then jeopardize the actual I-526E adjudication process. So again, this is a topic that I think I would defer mostly to our immigration partners on the specifics of how to document, obviously, the source of funds. But from the investment side, from the regional center side, we are happy and able to work with investors who want to and are committed to making the EB-5 investment, however, are not able to come up with all of the liquid funds at this moment. And then I know you didn't mention this, and you probably are, this is a question that you probably would like to ask, so I'll just ask it. The question of whether or not a loan is available for a portion of the EB-5 funds. And that is something that we are also very happy to work with investors on. Again, it's most likely not for a huge amount, but it would be possible in case-by-case situations for investors who are looking to fund part of their investment through a loan to be able to make the entire investment at the time that they are getting ready to file the I-526E. So again, partial investments or loans, we are committed to helping investors on this side. However, again, it is a case-by-case experience, but it's something that we're seeing more and more often and more frequently in the EB-5 industry.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Here I would actually want to stress out and outline that with the partial investment, you have to invest full amount at the moment the USCIS start adjudicating your petition. So the point is that and that's why Greg mentioned that in rural projects it can be a bit tricky, because you don't know actually when USCIS will start working on your petition. And when they will, you have to make sure that you transfer all your investment. And especially with what's happening in processing times now, it's kind of tricky task to complete.
It is tricky. So I think that, the main takeaway that I would say is important for an investor who's considering this is, number one, speak to an immigration attorney about the specifics and the possibility of doing partial investments. And we as a regional center are happy to assist in the process. Again, we cannot guarantee that this is something that will work for every investor, but if it does work, then we're happy to assist.
Right. And if we talk about the regional center side, for how long you're ready to extend this period during which investor can transfer their funds?
That's a great question. And I would say that in most cases, it doesn't extend past 6 months. But again, it's a case-by-case decision on the part of the regional center. Again, this is because we don't want to expose the investor to unnecessary risk on the adjudication side if it goes past 6 months, because we're seeing potential adjudications of I-526Es in under a year for some rural projects. So I think on that side, 6 months or less would be the goal. But again, each individual case we'll take that on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. And if we talk about the first installment, first payment, how small this can be?
For the first installment, usually it needs to be at least half of the full investment amount. However, in most cases, it's much more than that. So for example, maybe it's $600,000 for the first amount, and then the remainder coming within a couple months or a few months later. So again, in most cases, again, case by case, we'll take it on a case by case basis. However, anything lower than 50% of the total investment amount would usually be a cause for question, and it would be difficult for us to make that type of a decision.
Okay, here it again depends on the regional center and on the project. As Greg said, first discuss it with your immigration lawyer, and if immigration lawyer is kind of accepting and approving your strategy of partial investment, then you can go directly to the different regional centers and see who is able to accept your case in the most favorable for you fashion. And Greg, you mentioned about the loan, and it wasn't in my plan to cover it, but still, what the percentage of investment you would be able to assist with the loan? On what percentage of their investment?
Usually it would be 20 to 30%. Approximately that would be the amount that we'd be looking at. And again, I think that it's important for investors to think about the risks that they'll be taking on with either partial investment or with a loan. And so on our side, we're trying to the best of our ability to make sure that investors are in a safe position with USCS. Because again, as we've mentioned in other videos together, the whole purpose of the EB-5 investment process is to secure the green card for yourself and your family members. It's not just an investment. It is an investment that has a very, very impactful immigration benefit attached to it. And therefore, it's important to make sure that we are doing the best for our investors to make sure that there's not unnecessary risk associated with that. So that's why we say there are certain guidelines that we use, which I've mentioned, for assessing partial investments. However, we always want to choose the route that makes the most sense, but also will protect each individual investor to the maximum in that process.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Here, I think it's important to outline once again that if an investor is looking into the partial investment, they have to have these funds already earned and stored somewhere, like in their interest account, in their stock exchange, in their apartment. So the situations when you just plan to earn this money would not be actually ideal for this partial investment. That's, I'm sure, would be confirmed by any regional center or immigration lawyer, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Varvara, because again, the process that each individual investor must go through is the proof of source of funds. And that usually happens where there is the full investment amount being invested and those funds need to be accounted for. And that is, again, a question that the immigration attorney will be able to answer in detail. However, in theory, yes, if there is any question on the side of source of funds, whether it's full investment or partial investment, if there's any question from the immigration attorney, we would defer to the immigration attorney and to their discretion on that matter. So in that case, if the immigration attorney is not comfortable with the source of funds explanation, then we would not accept that investor. And that is our rule of thumb that we've used across all of our funds. But again, when you're working with a reputable, experienced EB-5 immigration attorney, which Varvara works with on a regular basis, as long as there is a solution possible and available within the current regulations, I'm confident that Varvara and the immigration attorney will find that for you. So don't worry about that. But again, on our side, we always wait for the green light from the immigration attorney on the source of funds before we officially accept any investor. And I think, again, that is to protect the investor. We don't want the investor coming back years later saying, why did you accept my investment, if you knew there were problems? So we're very careful when it comes to accepting investors. And again, it's for the benefit of the investor in the long term, because we want them to actually achieve the goal of getting the green card. And so that's our policy. It could be very conservative, but I think that it's worked well for all of our 1,350 plus investor families. We've never had any issues with any of our investors connected to any of our projects. And even for those investors who, the very, very, very small amount of investors who have had issues on source of funds, we've always been able to find a solution that works out best for those investors.
Thank you, Greg, for such this detailed explanation and so many interesting insights during this short recording. Once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Varvara. Much appreciated.
Thanks, and I hope this was interesting for our listeners as well. And if you want to learn more about EB-5 program, you can check our previous videos, hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.